Ulf Laessing is the head of the Sahel Program at the Konrad Adenauer Foundation. He joins us now from the Egyptian capital, Cairo. Good to have you with us. So I'm sure you've heard the statements by the public prosecutor saying there's evidence of collusion by military officers with the rebels and the fighters. What does that say about just how secure the authorities' control is at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there is a bit of collaboration. Some officers are unhappy with the military government, and you could see it, I mean, a week ago, jihadists, they killed the defense minister by a precision strike with a truck loaded with bombs. They know exactly where he was. So obviously there is some insiders, providing information to them.
What does that say about the advance we're seeing in this assault? Will we see other towns and strongholds fall after Kidal and Tessalit now?
Yeah, it's quite worrisome what happens in the north. I mean, like your correspondent said, 4 major army camps are now gone. 4 towns have fallen. The big test will be whether, the large cities such as Timbuktu, Gao, and Menaka in the north, whether the government is able to hold them. If they also fall, then anything might happen. Then we are back to 2012, when the same coalition of jihadists and Tuareg rebels took over the north until the French stepped in. But this time it will be very unlikely that France will come back, given the broken relationship with the military government.
That's the north. What about Bamako further south? It's blockaded, it's surrounded. Are we likely to see an assault on it soon?
I'm not sure. I think GNM, these jihadists linked to Al-Qaeda, don't have enough fighters to take on and control a city of 4 million. But what they're going to do is, to keep attacking the airport and trying to, interrupt supply routes. So the Russian managed yesterday to bring a convoy, according to video they published, but that also, binds a lot of forces which they need in the north. So that's kind of the tactic they do, the jihadists trying to hassle the government in the south, in Bamako, and eventually provoke protests of people getting tired of this chaos, and then they hope to get another government that might be more friendly towards them. But taking over the capital directly, the jihadists, they can't.
Is ECOWAS likely to get involved? An envoy's heading there on Monday.
I don't think it's the time for diplomacy, because the Tuareg rebels and the jihadists, they think they have momentum, and they will press on the advantage. And also the military government, I mean, all their reputation is built on an alleged strength, so they can't show any weakness by negotiating. They need to show the Russians that they're still in charge. So it's good that there is an attempt to bring people together, but right now it's not yet the time for talks.
So who can the government perhaps turn to at this point? You said it's unlikely we'll see a French intervention. Some of the Africa Corps Russian units, we've seen withdrawal from some of these towns which have fallen. Do they have other options? Do the military authorities have other options?
No, not really. They bought drones from Turkey, but Turkey has a policy of not getting involved in fighting rebels. They just provide drone operators. No, Russia's all they have. I think the Russians, they will do the maximum, because it's humiliating what's happening in the north. They're being forced out, and now they have to show that they can defend the capital. So that's the only option Mali has, and the Russians say they also have to prove that they're worth their money.
Now, the Kremlin did say the Russian forces will stay in Mali. How effective are they, though?
Yeah, not really. They promised a lot, and that gave Mali confidence to basically break with Europe, kick out the UN peacekeeping mission, hoping that the Russians will sort it out. But we can see they're really stretched. They maybe have a third of the manpower, the boots on the ground, which the French had, maybe 1,500 to 2,000. The French had more than 5,000. So it's limited what they can do in a vast country such as Mali. And all they can hope now is to defend the capital, I think.
How do you read the Western, particularly the US position on this, as I guess the West is watching a Russian-backed authority come under fire from the FLA and Al-Qaeda linked groups?
Yeah, I mean, Europe is kind of, the relationship is broken. The US recently reached out to the Malian military government. There were a couple of envoys talk of a counter-assistance, counter-terrorism assistance. That might lead to something, I hope. I mean, the Americans could be useful in providing intelligence to help identify where the jihadists are. But I think they're not concerned under Trump what the Russians are doing. They're probably more concerned that the whole region might, collapse as, jihadists, they're expanding in so many countries of the region. Nigeria, Burkina Faso, Benin, Niger, it's pretty much everywhere.
And on that point, how much of a risk is there that we could see other armed groups in the region boosted by this offensive that's going on by armed groups in Mali?
Yeah, I mean, gives other people idea. We already had in Niger's capital, Niamey, in end of January, we had an attack on the airport by Islamic State, and Islamic State is now trying to take over the northern city in Mali of Menaka. So it creates a vacuum, the retreat of the Russians, and then others get ideas. And I mean, the worst case scenario would be if the northern Mali becomes again this retreat base for jihadist smugglers, or however you want to call them, which say then it's the base to expand in the region. So that's really the nightmare scenario right now unfolding.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks so much for your analysis, Ulf Laessing from the Sahel Program of the Konrad Adenauer Foundation, joining us from Cairo.